Carolina ends an absolute roller coaster of a week on a high note, and that's something to build on ahead of NC State tomorrow night.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Monday, February 16th, 2026. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day, all part of the Locked On Network, which is now the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thanks so much for making us your first listener watch to get your daily content every single day. It's great to be here. Special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, who puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, but putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Coming up on the show today, we're going to look back more at the win over Pitt from Saturday and all the crazy circumstances that have been going on this week for Carolina. Given the circumstances, I believe Carolina plays about as well as you possibly can. We'll get to our Four Corners recap. We'll get to the shady stat of the game. Weekend whip around. Carolina also gets a fifth quarterback commit, a third transfer portal quarterback. This is crazy. Mingo commitment, by the way, is going to happen tomorrow. That's great news for the Tar Heels because everything is pointing to Carolina landing that. So we'll look at it, of course, when we get there. All right. Let's dive back into Carolina's home victory over Pitt on Saturday, 79-65. Oddly enough, with Pitt being awful this year, I have not heard anything out of Jason Capel whining and moaning as he did a couple years ago when, they were actually good. It's funny how winning and losing changes some of that. How about that? Carolina, thanks to the win, is now tied for 6th in the ACC in a tie with Louisville. Remember, they were 7th, but with other things that are going on, including Miami beating NC State in Raleigh. I mean, State had an absolute collapse. You hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it. No, you don't. Look, here's the biggest thing for me. Given the absolute roller coaster of a week it's been, I mean, how many emotional highs and lows have there been over the course of the past 8-9 days? You rewind back to last Saturday where you have this epic comeback and win against Duke with a historic one of the greatest shots in Carolina history from Seth Trimble to win that thing in the corner in front of the Carolina bench. Unreal. But then you fast forward to Tuesday where Carolina goes and loses a game at Miami that they could have very well won. I mean, yet it was right there. And there was that bad feeling, but the lingering like, oh no, what's up with Caleb's hand? Is that going to be okay? Well, turns out Thursday we learned that it's not going to be okay because there's a fracture. And then Friday, as the injury reports for the weekend are coming out, we hear that Veesaar, he was a little bit banged up on Tuesday night. We knew that, but it was like, he's fine, whatever. Well, now it's like there's an Achilles thing going on, and he's been sick since they got back from Florida. And it's like, good grief. And so, look, I know Pitt is a terrible team. They are. Truly, truly. But, man, after the gut punch after gut punch of the personnel stuff, of losing to Miami, anything could have happened on Saturday. And the correct thing happened. Carolina took care of business, didn't mess around with Pitt, got out to an early lead, and that's exactly what had to happen. And why was Carolina, even without their two leading scorers, even without their starting front court, able to have this victory? Because, as Joe Alexander said in our YouTube comments in the live postcast, which make sure to tune in, by the way, tomorrow night after the NC State game. It'll be a little bit later than normal. I'll go ahead and put that plug out now. Here's what Joe Alexander said that I loved, and so I wanted to quote him. Quote, "Everyone played within their abilities. I was afraid someone might try to stop playing team ball to be a hero." End quote. I thought that was so true and so astute from Joe to catch that, to say, look, it's easy in a moment like that where you're down Caleb, you're down Henri, for perhaps Seth to say, all right, I got to do this. It's all me. And that's very different from saying, all right, I got to lead this team. Follow me, boys, but spreading the love. or for whomever it would be, right? Luka to try to take over and just like, I got to do this. I got to take 8 million shots. And Luka was hot early, but it didn't have to be all him. And so I'm right with Joe. Nobody tried to do that. Carolina did all the things that they usually do, and you had multiple guys stepping up to the plate, whether it was scoring, assisting, not turning the ball over, all of this kind of stuff. And it wasn't hero ball. And there's a world in which that's a great thing. This was a team effort, everyone all in, everyone helping out, everyone chipping in. And it was like everyone knew their role and knew what they had to do, and they accomplished it, right? Zayden high stepping up in a massive way with career highs all over the place. Jarin Stevenson stepping up, doing what he needed to do, right? Like, it was really, really good. And hopefully that is something you can build on, because obviously, again, it's Pitt, right? But you would have rather had, like, that's the perfect team at the perfect time, because you got to figure out, okay, what are we going to look like without Caleb for a while and Henri for who knows how long? So they got like a practice run, a scrimmage game, more or less, against Pitt before now heading over to Raleigh tomorrow night. And that's so critical. And as you look at this spread, 4 different players scored 15 or more points, 19 each for Seth Trimble and Jarin Stevenson, 15 each for Zayden High, Luka Bogavac. And so the silver lining in all this is, assuming that Caleb Wilson is able to come back at some point, whenever that may be, assuming that that Henri Veesaar is able to come back at some point, which you don't want to rush, getting this confidence boost, this production boost for both Jarin Stevenson and Zayden High is only going to pay dividends, because in particular for Zayden, got a taste of, okay, this is what this team needs me to be. Yes, the energy and physicality that I have, like, he's just like, he go, and I love it. But it needs to be harnessed. And the version of Zayden High we saw Saturday is the best version we've seen of him as a Tar Heel. Multiple people said things like, I wonder if that has to do anything with, there aren't any other options, so I'm not going to get pulled, right? He just settled in and played and showed the talent that we saw in high school as they won a Geico national championship that made Hubert Davis want to bring him to Carolina. Will we see that game in and game out? Probably not. But if he could build on that and show that again tomorrow night at NC State, or next Saturday when Carolina goes to Syracuse, or the next Monday when they turn around in Louisville, all of that. There are 6 regular season games left, and Carolina is going to need Zayden High. And man, really, really proud of that. As Austin Hedrick said in our YouTube live postcast, quote, if we're healthy by tourney time, High and Stevenson getting these minutes here at the end of the season could be huge for us, not to mention, Austin says, what it could do for us next year, end quote. And that's critical too, because both of these guys have eligibility left. Caleb's going to be gone. Henri very well could be. He's played himself, at least as we stand right now, into the back end of the first round, it seems like, for just about every mock draft I've seen. And oh, by the way, all of this happened with Carolina doing what they needed to do, with Caleb Wilson over on the bench being the singularly biggest cheerleader he could be. And that to me speaks volumes about the type of teammate he is. Just another reminder of him being exactly who we think he is, right? A superstar who's a man of the people. He's not a superstar prima donna. He's not a superstar who's going to big time you. He's a superstar who wants to bring everybody along for the ride. And man, that's somebody I want to hitch my wagon to every day of the week. Great leadership from Caleb Wilson. And as you think more about this, who knows what's going to happen in future games? Who knows if Henry's going to be back? Who knows how they'll perform? But at least on this day, at least on Saturday, the Carolina coaching staff deserves a lot of credit, right? For all the critique and pushback and frustration that they get from all sorts of people. I hope the praise is just as loud when a moment like this happens. But of course, a lot of those same people are going to be the ones that say, oh, it's just Pitt, it doesn't matter. It does matter. How can you watch a performance like this, knowing what's missing, knowing the circumstances, and say it doesn't matter? That matters, both for Saturday and for long-term success for Carolina. And so really proud of the guys and really curious to see how they're going to build on it tomorrow night because there's a critical showdown coming up in Raleigh. All right, we got to get to our Four Corners recap where North Carolina got a lot of fast break points on Saturday against Pitt. Maybe that's a formula for how they can continue to play if Henri ends up being out for a longer period of time along with Caleb. We'll talk about that in the rest of the Four Corners recap coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Indeed. Look, workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you got to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire and you don't have time to do it, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies just like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of Locked On Tar Heels are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Tar Heels by saying you heard about Indeed right here on the show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch of the day and making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. It's all because of you guys. If you want to go even deeper with the show, check out the brand new Everydayers Club, where you get one-on-one text access with me, all access episodes, and an exclusive newsletter, other perks as well. Check it out, lockedontarheels.supercast.com. That link is down in the show notes. Let's get to the Four Corners recap from Carolina's win over Pitt. Number one, fast break points. 16 of Carolina's 79 points on Saturday came via fast break. That's 20.3% of their total points, or 1/5. That is the fifth time this season Carolina has been at 20% or more of their points coming from fast break. I know this is not like a classic Roy Williams get up and down the floor, Ty Lawson, warp speed, Kendall Marshall pitch ahead, so we're scoring quick time, top 5, top 10 in the nation in tempo. That's not this team. In fact, I could even tell you right now in real time, Carolina is 145th in the nation in adjusted tempo. So, upper third, but not killing it, not elite at running. However, here's my wondering. With the starting front court out, definitely Caleb out again tomorrow and for the next several games. With Henri, it's going to probably continue to be game time decision based on how that Achilles is feeling, how his energy gets back up, if he's feeling better and not sick. Look, I feel like there's a sickness been going around. A lot of people have been struggling with it. I remember Rink Mast from Nebraska had it a couple weeks ago. He returned to action and was a shell of himself in that first game back. And so that is all a very possibility. My point is, with the starting front court out, this getting out and running is how Carolina needs to attack. Because the depth, while the two most talented players on the roster are the starting front court, the depth is clearly in the backcourt and wings all season long. Because you've got, of your 8-9 rotation guys, 5 or 6 of them are all back guards and wings. So utilize that. Right? I know on Saturday, Carolina started Jarin, Stevenson, and Zayden high, and they probably will again tomorrow night. But we saw a ton of one big looks for everybody else being guards and wings, just like we did most of the time last year, because the front court had nothing, ironically enough, with Van Allen Lubin in the starting lineup. So do that. Get to those one big looks, spread the floor, and drive and attack, get out and run. I think that's how Carolina is going to need to operate. We'll talk more about it, but man, I think that's the right way to go. And Seth Trimble's got to be the guy to lead that. Seth needs to be in absolute attack mode tomorrow night. Finished a couple of them. He was 5 of 11 on twos on Saturday, but I love the attack, and he's going to finish more in a normal scenario. Four Corners recap point number 2. Going to need more scoring-wise from Derek Dixon. And really, point guard position. Derek Dixon scored 3 points on Saturday, and that was on a banked in three-pointer. He even went back down the court shaking his head because he knew, right? That was the only points that came from the point guard position because Kyan Evans had 0 points himself. And you remember when Derek Dixon first moved into the starting lineup and things were hot, man. He was shooting over 50%, really well from three, etc. It's tapered off. Last 6 games, 27% from the field, 12 of 44. Last 5 games, 24%, 8 of 33. In the last 3 games, 22.7%, 5 of 22. Derek's got to get better. I think some of that is trying to get inside using his size and athleticism, his size, not necessarily his athleticism because that ain't there in spades, but his size to get to the rim, attack a little bit more, like shoot some free throws. You're a great shooter, right? And so when so many of his shots are from beyond the arc, he's going to have slumps like that. Need to get in, need to get to the rim and do more. And look, obviously Saturday at Pitt, you didn't necessarily need that scoring. I get that. But that's not going to be the case going forward. Each of the 6 games remaining in the regular season, infinitely tougher than that one. Need more from Derek Dixon scoring-wise and Kyan Evans as well. That said, Four Corners recap point number 3. Let me counter what I just said or add to what I just said. Either you can take it either way, honestly. Outside of scoring, what Derek Dixon did on Saturday was wonderful. Finding other ways to contribute. Look, my shot is not falling. I'm in a slump. All right, fine. What else am I going to do for this team, who, by the way, is without 2 of their front court players and the leading rebounders? Well, one of the things he did was go grab 7 rebounds. And that's critical, man. Again, with that front court out, everyone's got to chip in on the glass. Guards, wings, all of it. And so Derek at 6'5", got to get downhill and get some boards, and he absolutely did. The other thing that he did so well was Carolina had 18 assists. He had 7 of them and just 1 turnover. Really encouraged by that. So yes, just 3 points for Derek Dixon, but 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1 turnover. Sometimes as a point guard, those kind of things can be just as important as scoring. If somebody's on a heater and multiple possessions where he found Jarin Stevenson or Zayden high for those assists. And if he's doing that, great. I just need him to account for points. I'd love for him to score some, but as long as he's accounting for that, I can get behind. And let me say as well, it wasn't just Derek. Carolina as a team, 18 assists, 4 turnovers. Phenomenal stuff. I can live with that assist to turnover ratio. What is the math on that? 8, because it ain't clean. It's probably 4.25. Am I thinking correctly? 4.5. I was selling it short. So Carolina assist to turnover ratio, 4.5 to 1. Yes, please. I can live with that every single day of the week. So keep doing that. Keep those turnovers down. Keep possessions high. More possessions equals more shots equals more points. That's what you're trying to do. And by the way, Carolina is still holding strong, 12th nationally in turnover percentage, doing it just 13.4% of the time. And that brings us to number 4 in the Four Corners recap. Rebounding continued to struggle for the Tar Heels. You expected it Saturday without your 2 leading rebounders, but you didn't expect to get necessarily beat again. Carolina -5 on the glass in this one. Pitt winning the rebounding battle 32-27. And those 5 extras were on the defensive glass. The team's tied with 6 offensive rebounds each. For the Tar Heels, that's the 3rd straight game they've been out rebounded. So the others being Duke and Miami. And this is the 4th time in the last 6 games. Not all of those were without Caleb Wilson. Not all of those were without Henri Veesaar. Just this one. There are rebounding issues that need to be addressed. Thankfully, they didn't allow as many offensive rebounds on Saturday, and that's been a bugaboo lately, is allowing offensive rebounds and the ensuing second chance points. Cannot do that. And Carolina did a great job keeping them off the glass. I haven't even looked at how NC State is in offensive rebounding percentage. I'll tell you, they're not great. And so Carolina shouldn't have to worry about that tomorrow night. But again, you don't have Wilson and Veesaar, so all hands on deck for that. All right, we need to get to our shady stat of the game. We'll do that in just a second, as well as Carolina landing another transfer quarterback and a weekend whip around. Great start for baseball, a split weekend for women's basketball. All that coming up in just a second. Hey, right after I tell you about Mazda, this is Mazda's moving the game forward moment for those who show there's more to the score than what's on screen. And it's got to be Carolina's makeshift front court stepping up and stepping in and rising to the occasion. Jarin Stevenson, 19 points. Zayden High, 5 points. 15 points. Both guys getting after it. High contributing on the glass as well. 2 assists for each of them. No turnovers for either of them. Stevenson knocking down a couple threes. Really, it's probably not crazy to say Carolina doesn't win that game if those guys don't show up. They helped move the game forward when other guys were out. Can they do it again tomorrow night? That's what we're watching for. It's moments like these that remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire. Jarin talked about what a great week of practice Zayden High had. Man, that's it. That's that grit, that I never quit mentality. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, but what it took to get there, that's what makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals like live and in person? FanDuel is giving you that chance right now to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience, man. That's incredible. So maybe you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run in the NBA playoffs, or who's going to, whatever it is. I don't know, some NBA future. Now's the time to lock it in because, man, it's going to add extra excitement to every game that you have that on, but also not only can those picks cash, but it could send you to the NBA Finals. Crazy stuff. How about the medal watch for the Olympic Games? I'm geeked out. I'm all in on the Olympics. Norway's still the favorite for the most medals at minus 2,000. America plus 1,000 over Italy at plus 3,300 right now, even though Italy's in second place over America. So maybe you got some good odds on Italy there, and you think that home cooking is going to do it. Why not? Check it out. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's time for the shady stat of the game. Here's the thing. In a game where you're shorthanded, your personnel is all sorts of juggled around, and you don't know what to expect. And you worry because Carolina comes out slow a lot. It's like, okay, slow, down some personnel. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't want Pitt to get any sort of like, hey, maybe we can do something here. Carolina had to have a better start, and they did, and that's the shady stat of the game. The Carolina Tar Heels started out Saturday's contest making each of their first 8 field goals. That's right. Carolina started the game 8 for 8. Sure, they went through some droughts later in the game, but man, getting off to this start, they were up 18-8 just 6 minutes into the game on the Panthers. And it was a multitude of players doing that. Zayden High scored first in the paint. Jarin Stevenson 3, bogey 3, a bogey drive. Stevenson fadeaway in the lane, another bogey drive. Seth Trimble in transition off a bogey pass, and then Zayden High in the post. That's your 8 buckets. Half of those 18 points went to that makeshift front court of Zayden High and Jarin Stevenson. Man, that's exactly the start you hoped for those guys and for the team. Really neat stuff, and that's why it's the shady stat of the game. Pitt, the closest Pitt got it after that was down to 5, but never smaller than that. Carolina pushed it back out, and they ended up leading by double digits for the final 26-38 of this game. That's exactly what you had to do, even shorthanded, against a Pitt team that's struggling and on the road. Just don't give them a shred of hope. That's what Carolina did, and man, that's incredible stuff. There's your shady stat of the game. All right. I mentioned it earlier. Carolina adds a fifth quarterback, at least one that will contend at some level. It's the third quarterback transfer. I recorded a segment with Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin about that. So I'm going to post that separately on both YouTube and our audio feed so you can check it out and get in on that. Here's some more there about it and learn what the situation is. So make sure you check that out. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, I'll link it right up there so you can click in on it, and that'll be that. All right, let's get to the weekend whip around. We'll start with women's basketball, where the ladies went into the weekend on a 7-game winning streak. They were 20-5 overall. They were 9-3 in ACC play. And boy, they start on Thursday night by absolutely crushing SMU 94-42. Renaya Kelly missed that game, her second straight, and then missed Sunday's game against Duke as well. So we'll keep our eyes on that. This SMU game, man, cool for a multitude of reasons. The 400th career win for Coach Courtney Banghart. Congrats, Coach. That's incredible stuff. A absolute dominant victory. How dominant? It's Carolina's largest ACC victory in program history. That is insane. Carolina held the Mustangs to single-digit points in every quarter but the fourth, and Carolina had 20 or more points in every quarter but the third, and in that one, they had a measly 18 points. Unreal stuff. And what's cool about that is similar to what I said about the guys earlier. It wasn't just one person going off for like 30 points. A balanced effort. Laney Grant had 15, India Navarre had 14, Talia Henderson had 13, Layla Hola had 11. 8 different players had 6 or more points. Really, really good balanced effort from the Tar Heels, who were plus 30 on the glass. It was their 11th game this season with 10 or more made threes. They had 12 total in this one. Great stuff to get that winning streak up to 8. And then Sunday, Carolina goes to Duke for the first matchup between the two of the season. Not only did Carolina come in on an 8-game winning streak, Duke was on a 15-game winning streak, the number 11 Blue Devils. Unfortunately, as you probably know, Carolina falls by 4, 72-68, and it was not without chances, man. Carolina was right there. They had a 6-point lead in the second quarter, surrendered a 13-0 run to end the first half, allowed Duke to take a lead, but Carolina chipped, and worked their way back. Made 10 straight field goals toward the end of the third quarter to get within 2. At that point, Sierra Toomey has an absolute bunny with nobody around her to tie the game. She misses. That would have been the 11th straight field goal. She misses, and Carolina never is able, like, it just felt like the Tar Heels had all this momentum. They were going to go back into the lead and maybe hold on, maybe not, but you at least expected them to tie and maybe take a lead. It was funny. It was like that shot misses, and then Carolina could never, I think they got it to 2 another time or 2, but could never tie it. And that was that, man. Crazy stuff. You know, you feel like Carolina really played well enough to win this game. They just couldn't get it done. It's tough to win on the road. They'll get back to it, but man, you feel like a missed opportunity there. Only made 6 threes in this game. You know, it's a team, again, that's thrived on making them. And here's the kind of wild and weird. Remember after the men's game last week, there was all the weeping and gnashing of teeth from Duke fans because Carolina was only called for 1 foul in the second half. How about this? Duke, 17 of 21 at the free throw line in this game. Carolina didn't make a free throw because they also didn't take a free throw. That's right. Carolina, who dominated paint points, by the way, you would expect a couple free throws to come off of that. Maybe some and ones. Not a one. No foul shots taken by the Tar Heels. Now, I'm not going to weep. I'm not going to moan because that's not what it's about. I'm just saying, Duke fans, no reason to get all up in arms about this because look what happens anytime you get to be in Cameron, right? Carolina will get back to it this winning. They'll get a new winning streak going. It'll be great. Men's tennis wins twice on Sunday, beats Campbell 4-0, follows it up, beating NC Central 5-0. Easy peasy, men are 7-2. Baseball, you know it. They were off to their season opening series against the Hoosiers of Indiana. And baby, break out the brooms. The Tar Heels got a sweep. On Friday, Carolina wins 9-4. Instead of playing Saturday and Sunday, I think because of some weather, they went ahead and just ran a doubleheader on Saturday. Carolina gets a mercy rule in the first game on Saturday, 12-2 in 7 innings. And the second game, Carolina wins it in extra innings. Those 2 innings they took off at the end of the first game on Saturday, they just added to the end of this one. Carolina wins it 4-3. A couple things about that game 3. Carolina, oh man, is down 3-1, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, men on second and bases loaded. Actually, maybe was it? It was at least second and third. I'll say that. Ground ball to Indiana's second baseman, who just throws it into the ground, nowhere near the first baseman. Carolina scores 2 runs. So what should have been a routine last out of the game turns into a game-tying E4. Yikes. I felt awful for the kid. I've gone through the yips before. When I first went to college, man, I was struggling for a while. We saw that with Rick Ankiel. Second base. Hello, what up, Chuck Knobloch, right? So it's a very real thing. So you feel terrible for the kid, but love getting to extra innings off of that. Where in extra innings, Macon Winslow hits a walk-off bomb to lead off the bottom of the 11th. Here's why that's interesting. If you're not familiar, Macon Winslow is Carolina's brand new catcher. You know where he transferred from? Duke. So a sentence you never would have said prior to the transfer portal era. Duke Blue Devils transfer catcher Macon Winslow becomes a Tar Heel hero, hitting a walk-off bomb in the bottom of the 11th, right? Like, that is a wild sentence to say, but absolutely love it. Welcome to Chapel Hill, Macon Winslow. You've made a mark, and you, my friend, are a Tar Heel. As a reminder of how good Carolina's pitching staff is going to be, Jason DeCaro, game 1, goes 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks, gets the win. Game 2, Folger Boaz, win, 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 run, 6 Ks, 2 base on ball. Game 3, Ryan Lynch, no decision, but 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 2 base on balls. So the starters through 15 innings this weekend gave up a grand total of 7 hits and 2 earned runs. That's it, while striking out 19. I mean, good grief. And look, they're just getting warm. If 5 innings pitched, I'm imagining Coach Forbes had them on not necessarily a pitch count, maybe a pitch count, but more of an inning, like, let's get 5 out of you, and then we'll move on from there. And it ain't just them. Matty Mateus is back in the bullpen. Remember, he was out injured last year. I think that was a lot of the problem because the Tar Heels kept having to go to freshman Ryan Lynch and Walker McDuffie, and they just kind of ran out of gas, right, in the Super. Oh, man, that was so sad. Anyway, Mateus is back. That's great news. Walker McDuffie, Cam Padgett. I mean, the bullpen has got arms. It's going to be a great year for the Tar Heels. Can't wait. They host Richmond on Tuesday, Longwood on Wednesday, and then the always fun series against ECU this coming weekend, where each team hosts a game and they play one in between at the DBAP over in Durham. Softball has another winning weekend, second straight 4-0 weekend, so they run their record to 8-0. They on the weekend they played 4 games, 2 against Bryant, 1 against Northern Kentucky, 1 against Monmouth, and 1 by, brace yourselves, they won by a combined 63-1. I kid you not. Wrestling, tough one. They went to Blacksburg, lost to Virginia Tech 9-29. Tough stuff there. Carolina falls to 9-4 overall, 2-3 in ACC play. Men's lacrosse records 2 wins over the weekend, over High Point on Friday 20-9, and then over Iona on Sunday 23-7. Women's lacrosse had an ACC match for their second match of the season. They went up to Syracuse, won 13-9. Carolina actually fell behind 3-1 after 1. But ultimately got ahead, had a really nice second half, winning that half 8-3. And so they moved to 2-0 on the season, 1-1 overall. Hey, nice to pick up a roadie early in the season. Gymnastics, kind of a weird weekend, played NC State again, curiously enough, and lost at NC State on Friday evening. Very close score. It was 196.325 to 196.625. So Carolina loses by 0.3 of a point. And then weirdly, let me see if I can get back to the gymnastics page. They went over to Fort Worth then for Sunday to play in the Metroplex square off, or I forget what it was actually called, and against Auburn and UAB and NC State. NC State again. This time Carolina prevails, beating all 3 of those. And Auburn is like a juggernaut in gymnastics. So that's really, really good and nice to get a little comeback against NC State after falling to them earlier in the weekend. Swimming and diving, as a reminder, ACC championships going on right now. Fencing was in action up in Cincinnati, and track and field was all over the place this weekend. So great stuff. Nice weekend for the Tar Heels. Wish the ladies had been able to beat Duke. But, man, great effort there and excited to keep going forward. All right, you guys, that's it for today's show. As a reminder, Dylan Mingo is going to commit tomorrow. All signs point to Carolina. That's great news. And then tomorrow night, NC State, 7 p.m. on ESPN. I have something. I got to lead worship for an event, for a convention. And, of course, it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And so I need to do that. Gotta have some time of worship, and then I'll get back and get the game taken in. I'll be on Do Not Disturb so nobody ruins it, and then we'll go live a little bit later than we usually would. So make plans though to still tune in. Man, I'm stressed about that game. It's just not what it was going to be when Caleb was going to be there and Henry. Just that's wild. It's wild how a week can change things. All right, you guys, thanks for being here with me on a Monday. If you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, do it right now so you don't miss a second of Locked on Tar Heels. If you haven't joined that Everydayers Club we talked about earlier, that link is in the show notes, as is the link for the Locked on Tar Heels Discord. We'd love to see you there as well. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, but until then, peace.